Greetings, everybody! Welcome once more to the Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive back into Golarion, into its past, its history, its ongoing world? I am your host, guide, your emperor here at the Empire, here to lead you, here to teach you, here to educate you on so many things in the tabletop world and the various universes it is. Tantus Nar Van Dracovin. Welcome. I'm going to be opening up a portal to Golarion, world of Pathfinder, where we are going to explore ruins, Xatramba, or as it's known, Holy Xatramba, a heart of religious fervor and power that once existed within the Mwangi Expanse, but now is a shadow of its former self. Ruins that could be explored today with different threats, the mark of a great city and civilization that once existed. Now, before we go and before we travel through the great, a little bit of a tip would help the channel. Certainly. Hey, are you subscribed over on YouTube? If not, please do. Helps out. Just hit that button. Make sure you're subscribed. You get notifications and all those things. You can ring the bell. Liking also does help with those things and algorithms, but make sure you're subscribed at the very least. And let me know, have you explored Xatramba, or Holy Xatramba? Or would you be interested in one of your characters? We're running an adventure there. Let me know in the comments. Well, the portal is open. Grab my hand. Let's go. Xatramba. We've arrived. Now, I had to learn about Holy Xatramba just like you do. What are some sources that I can point out that can help you learning deeper and more on Holy Xatramba? The little bits of detail that are beyond what I'm talking about. Also referencing things that I'm talking about. I like typing out books. Anyway, there are 3 books set across Pathfinder 1st and 2nd edition. The Mwangi Expanse book is technically original 2nd edition, though it's very close. It's close enough to the remaster project that I assume most of it's fine with a couple little updates here. But the Mwangi Expanse book is up there. Heart of the Jungle is an older one. And another one that is newer, 2nd edition, but not as new as the Mwangi Expanse book, was Slithering, the Adventure. Because that deals with Kibwe. That's connected to Xatramba. Well, what do I mean by that? We've basically talked a little bit about here, but we should probably introduce everything. And why am I showing Kibwe here? This is Kibwe. Because Kibwe was once part of the nation that was Xatramba. You see, Holy Xatramba is a city. Well, ruins of a city in eastern jungle Mwangi Expanse. It is southwest of Kibwe. It was founded in 3699 AR. It was on the site of Volgnar, and its first defeat, which happened in 909 AR. Volgnar, if you're unaware, is one of the spawn of Robogug, the End Singer. Powerful creature that's very destructive, defeated there. It was a place of religion, of worship, mixing the ancestor worship and worship of Pharasma, being the center of religion in many ways of the Mwangi people. Kibwe was technically part of it. Kibwe was assimilated, conquered, but peacefully into it. We'll discuss that reasoning behind Kibwe being in it and why it was there, and it will be important to what survives Xatramba. It really will be. Hello! Volgnar. Yeah, that's it. That's an illustration of Volgnar, spawn of Robogug, the horrific being that was defeated in 909. So, basically, we have to turn back to the time period in which Xatramba was founded. Like many Zenji-based settlements of the time, it was founded with a nomadic partner tribe in the savannas to the south. Basically, Xatramba's partner tribe set up a market outpost known as Rastel. But soon that outpost grew bigger and bigger, and it became a trading hub in that region, kind of became its own thing, effectively. And those that previously lived in Xatramba moved away from the city due to decreased focus on religion. The long story short of it is, this was the time period where both Xatramba and Rastel were being formed. Rastel, which I talked about in a previous episode, go check that out, was kind of a combination of a lot of beings in a region. And Xatramba was a lot of similarities of that. It was this assembly of the various people at the time trying to form larger and bigger cities and such like that. But Xatramba, unlike Rastel, which was more focused on trade, had a much more religious focus. And the rise of Rastel kind of caused Xatramba's downfall, because Xatramba, though was destroyed by Rastel, we'll talk about this, they started it. They were basically angered by the kind of trade powers in Rastel not wanting to deal with them the same way, being a religious kind of nation. Rastel was more on the plains. Xatramba was more in the jungles. So Rastel placed tariffs on trade to Xatramba, basically getting more from foreign merchants. There was this entire trade war that was going on between the two of them that lasted for some amount of time. Basically, while the city was formed proper in 36, like, its essence of what was there and kind of the connections to it is older, do I have to say there. But yes, basically, the Xatramba was again, this is very early on into their existence that this battle between Rastel and Xatramba were fomenting. And it didn't take long for the trade war, which was established between two fledgling nations, to turn to violence and physical confrontations between them. We look at Xatramba and Rastel now, and we only see the capitals and a couple of outlying cities. But there were nations here, and they rose to prominence and to power. Xatramba embracing its worship, the ancestral worship that was major in this part of this religion, combined with a worship of Pharasma directly, the Lady of Graves, led to a holy renaissance within its walls. It was a massive and powerful city in a lot of ways. Strength based on faith. Its people ruled for a large amount of time. It existed for centuries before its fall. Though, again, its settlement and beginning of the hostilities with Rastel were quick. And it's probably on both sides. Xatramba, didn't like how Rastel was treating them because they had this, settlement and creation of themselves early connected, and then, those things went sour that way, and then Rastel retaliated, and it just got worse and worse, and it was just a mess. But we do understand what the culture was in the city. It was a city based around its beliefs, its theology, its faith. And that's important, because that's the only look into cultures. This place sacred to the gods, head of a confederacy, Xatramba. And we do have to mention, before we look to the end of Xatramba, one last thing. Keebway. Keebway is important to mention here at the tail end of this little section of the history of it. Because Keebway existed before Xatramba. Kind of. It does predate Xatramba by centuries. But it was a trade hub, a trading post. It wasn't much of anything. A small little area. Basically, it wasn't until Xatramba grew powerful that Keebway did too. Because this small, basically, trade hub / trading post / small mini trade settlement basically got assimilated into the larger nation of Holy Xatramba as a whole, its territory, its confederacy, and made its eastern regional capital. That support helped it grow. And when the end came, those that fled came to Keebway. So while Keebway has an older history, you can go see my Keebway episode. What remains of Xatramba, what remains of its people, are now integrated into there. And perhaps much of what Keebway became today is linked to Xatramba's influence, but again, you can't say how strong. Xatramba may have just given a little push But Holy Xatramba would fall. Its capital would fall. And with the city of Holy Xatramba, so would the entire nation. And whatever confederacy existed. But its own doom was also Rastel's doom. You've seen that. Rastel brought it about. So the escalation led to physical combat. And we kind of have a date, sort of. We assume it's happened sometime after that. But basically, Rastel, in their attempt to defeat Xatramba using their divine magics, Rastel using military force, turned to the Outer Planes and turned to demons. They summoned a demonic horde to destroy Xatramba. It technically succeeded, but not the way that necessarily Rastel wanted, because they did attack. They did destroy the city. They did drive the survivors out, many of which fled to Kibwe. But they also broke free from Rastel, took the city, and turned it into a living nightmare. And eventually turned back to Rastel, people that tried to control them. Rastel spelled the doom for both kingdoms. Unfortunately, this was the end of both of them. A demonic horde that taints both lands now. Rastel, with its influence still remaining, go see my episode again, and then Xatramba now, well, infested with what remains of these fiends that haven't been either destroyed or returned to stake some kind of revenge claim to Rastel itself in its destruction. What fiends remain there? And again, the fiend's technical rule didn't last. It does take us to today. It takes us to what remains of Xatramba. Today. Deep in the jungle. Now, this picture isn't completely accurate. Why is that? Green dragons don't exist anymore. That's the easy thing about it. This was, old Pathfinder green dragon. Doesn't mean there's not a dragon there. Just a different type of dragon. We don't know what type of dragon yet. We haven't said. But yes. Basically, the demons controlled the city for quite some time until a dragon, Olahimba, basically came in. Olahimba, who was greedy, territorial, but worshipped the Lady of Graves. Yes, a dragon who was a devout follower of Pharasma. Saw the demons, saw, though again, greedy, a dragon. Probably if you still were using alignment charts, neutral evil to a neutral god, that happens, Pharasma's very in the middle of the road, and so, you can have more wicked and more well-wishing people on your side. And was like, you are defiling my goddess's city. I'm gonna slaughter the crap load of you. Now, afterwards, there's a lot of treasure left over in here, and a lot of holy relics that I should really watch over. I'm just gonna pile them into a big old pile and sleep on top of it. Holy relics and gold. So yeah, that's what happened in the city now. There's a big old dragon there that hasn't cleaned out the entire city. Basically, the large area is the core of the city. The city's core has been established as the dragon's territory. The former palace, now where the horde lays, which just kind of pours out of there. It is less guarded than the Temple District, though. The Temple District still is haunted by some remaining demons hiding in them, in the maze-like structures there. Packs of shape-shifting creatures that try to stay out of the dragon's reach. And the ghosts of the dead that were, unceremoniously created by the entire thing that happened. And I'm not going to admit, as the dragon probably wants to get rid of the undead, not great at it. Not great at the entire purge the undead, because my goddess really doesn't like them kind of thing. Yeah, they're old followers. We really should have them go to rest, but, not good at that. So, Xatramba isn't a demon ghost-infested heckhole. I don't know how I was going to say hole. I don't know why I say headache. I don't know if I think hellhole describes it very well. A demon-infested, terrible ruins. It's technically a dragon-controlled, with a few undead ghosts and demons kind of boiling beneath the surface, hidden in places where the dragon can't reach. So those places that you might want to go try to explore to find some of those treasures or find out things that aren't already under the dragon's control are going to be filled with demons and ghosts. And when you try to exit there, you might have to deal with the dragon either not liking it you showed up there or enacting some kind of tax. Holy Xatramba! Yeah. That's Holy Xatramba. Again, it's one of those weird things because we don't have a huge picture of the entire nation. We know that it was the religious center of a small kind of conglomeracy of probably small cities and villages and such within the jungle. We can see this by Kibwe being connected to them, and the fact that the survivors of Xatramba, well, their descendants now live in Kibwe. They went there, they integrated, they stayed. And, again, we don't know how much Kibwe was growing with or without Xatramba, but we know Xatramba basically came in and said, "You're part of our group now. You're our eastern capital. Congratulations." But I also understand because grabbing Kibwe was probably a way of trying to compete with Rastel. Think about that. Rastel was a trade-built empire, a conglomeracy of a bunch of groups that came together within the region there. A multicultural consortium that developed in that region and were more trade-based than Xatramba. So competing there. And again, it's this entire thing that both of them, we know the core of them from their capital, which are the most of the things that remain. But there's just so much gone and missing, and maybe not, though. Kibwe still survives. Maybe some of those other villages and cities that exist that are still in the jungle may have been part of Xatramba, the entire nation. But, yeah, still, the Holy City remains, mostly. But there's a lot lost there. So many ancient treasures, religious relics, things that were the center of the religious culture in this region for some time. There is no true religious center anymore. Hasn't been replaced. An unfortunate side effect of the loss of the place. But again, another time it comes back to it is, did they start things with Rastel? Kinda, but also not. It's a sad story between the two of them, overall. Thank you for joining me, though. This has been an interesting exploration. If you want to see more things that I do, you can always check me out either live on Twitch or over on YouTube side thing. Both are great places. If you're live on Twitch, you can see me record videos like this. You can see live plays like Fall of Adams for Wednesdays at 8. You can see Discussing Tabletop Saturdays at 6, my talk show discussion podcast. But can't join me live, please do make sure you're over on YouTube, are subscribed over there, because everything tabletop related ends up over there. My other stuff, video gaming, hang with friends stuff, that doesn't end up anywhere until I maybe get a VOD's channel. But for now, just tabletop stuff over on YouTube. Check it out. Let me know what you think of Holy Xatramba and its, competition with Rastel. I've talked about both of them now, and it's a fun thing. And then, of course, check out my social medias. Link below. Discord's the best of all of them, but you can check them out. All right, everybody, I'm going to get going. But until the next time, we dive into Golarion once more, the world of Pathfinder, or another roleplay. I bid you all a deep and wonderful farewell.